I wish I could read these biographies of Ludwig. Wait a minute. Ludwig II, fairy tale king of Bavaria. I didn't see this before. Yep, English. Huh. Ludwig remained throughout his life both very bright and very naive. He was an introvert who seemed to be constantly out of sync with traditional views of rulership, money, and human relationships. The world ever failed to match his ideals. Perhaps this was a fault of his sheltered upbringing as future king. He never was introduced to the real world, and the real world failed to interest him as an adult. In his youth, Ludwig was in fine physical condition and loved to hike alone in the Alps and ride horses. He had a hunting lodge, Schachen, specifically for this purpose. Unfortunately, in 1872, a rather traumatic hunting accident befell the king at Schachen, and his leg was cruelly damaged. He never fully recovered from this incident, and his hiking and riding ceased. His physical health deteriorated from that time on, and explains why he looked so unhealthy in later years. A hunting accident? Other than his long-standing friendship with the Empress Elizabeth of Austria and with his mother, the relationships Ludwig attempted with others were nearly always a disappointment for him and a bewilderment for his partners. He would become obsessed with someone, a singer, an artist, a nobleman or a peasant, and would bombard them with gifts, praise, and favors. When they would fail to return the depths of rapturous passion he required, the singular adoration and humble obedience he expected, he would grow disappointed and cut himself off from them. The objects of his interest were occasionally women, usually ones he fell in love with after seeing them in idealized roles on the stage, but they were more often young men who fit his fantasies of the heroic sagas like Lohengrin and Parsifal that he so loved. A good example of the king's obsessive behavior in relationships is the following letter from the Königlich Bayerische Archives, which this author was privileged to access. It is dated 1864, and it was written by Ludwig's manservant, Paul, to a friend. The king has been in high mood these days. The reason, of course, is a new interest. Thursday last, the king attended a performance of Lohengrin in the Wittelsbacher Theater. He came back in a fever, demanding that a man be found. The man, it was gathered, had been sitting in a box across from Ludwig and had drawn the king's attention by his beauty and his deep emotional response to the performance. The king declared that here at last is a sensitive soul. The man was tracked down and brought in for an audience. Upon my word, never have I seen any mind so in line with His Majesty's own. They discussed Wagner and France and Byron and all manner of things until long past dawn. The young man, beautiful indeed to look upon, met the king's enthusiasm and knowledge bit for bit. His Majesty has been in the thick of it ever since, and while I welcome his good temper, I grow tired of fetching letters back and forth to Louis, so called by His Majesty, that should tell you who the young man looks like, at all hours of the night. This author has not been able to learn much about Louis, but he was known to have been a seemingly high-bred foreigner, and he was involved with Ludwig as late as 1880, when he fell into disfavor. The king, especially later in life, felt a great deal of guilt about his sensual nature. His diaries are full of repentant entries begging God for forgiveness and swearing to remain pure. In many of the diary entries, he swears to abstain from sexual relations. The number of these oath entries indicate that Ludwig was not very successful in resisting temptation, yet it is also clear that Ludwig was a God-fearing man and that, though his flesh might occasionally fall, he never surrendered his heart and his conscience to sin. There's nothing else on werewolves in the occult section. I'm not sure what other case books would be relevant. I wonder what Guerra's up to. I wonder what Guerra's up to.
Guten Tag.
Grüß Gott, Frau Nakimura. Ich habe etwas für Sie.
Oh, it's from Gabriel.
Ja, das ist vom Schattenjäger. Ja.
No, I think you... Gabriel is a working partner and... Never mind. Danke.
Bitte, brauchen Sie noch etwas?
Danke.
Bitte.
Gracie, you decided to come over. That's great. Good and tag and all that. I'm sure you and Gertie are hitting it off. Thanks for finding the werewolf book. I'm not sure what it all means, but it might be useful. About Ludwig II, you know, I think you might have something there. Ubergrau says there are 2 places you should check out. Ludwig had a castle called New Swan something, and there's a museum about him at Year in Chemistry. Something like that. I really think you should spend some time looking into it. Don't worry. Things are going very smoothly this time around. I've tracked a suspect to a hunt club run by a man named Von Glauer. He seems okay, but I'm sure there's something going on with at least one of the others. Don't worry, though. I met a police detective named Lieber, so I have backup. I'll be finished soon. Sit tight and enjoy your visit till I get there. Gabriel.
What does he think, I'm on vacation here? No address. Thank you very much, Mr. Knight.
Hello there, dear.
Hi, I'm Grace Nakamura from the castle. Am I interrupting?
Heavens What? No.
Have a seat, Miss Nakamura.
Well, I might. For a moment.
Isn't this nice? We just finished our breakfast. Do you want something?
No thanks.
Good for you. I can never turn down food myself. Now you just tell us all about it, Sugar Pie.
You mentioned the other night that you were a demonologist. What is that exactly?
Well, it's not as bad as it sounds, honey. What Emil and I really do is to help protect people.
Protect them from what?
Well, do you believe in the devil, Miss Nakamura?
I believe in good and evil, if that helps.
Oh, but Satan and his demons are real, and they will attack the living, and most folks don't know what to do once they've been attacked. We try to help protect people.
How can you protect people from demons?
Best protection is faith in God, of course. But sometimes faith isn't enough. Sometimes we have to delve into the supernatural in order to protect others. Your Schottenjoggers are just the same.
We are? I mean, he is?
Of course! The warriors of light are rare these days, but they do exist all around the globe.
That's interesting. I just read about a group called Manos del Sol in Brazil. So the Ritters aren't the only Schottenjägers.
Well, they're probably the only ones to use that title, but others have been chosen for the battle.
Do you know anything about King Ludwig II?
Sure, we saw his castles, didn't we, Mother?
We sure did. Why do you ask?
Well, I found a letter in the Schottenjäger library warning Ludwig about the Black Wolf.
Who wrote the letter?
One of Gabriel's ancestors, a Schottenjäger.
Seems like whoever was using me as a megaphone helped you find that letter. Perhaps you should follow the path something's pointing at. Look into Ludwig.
I intend to. The other night you said something about the Black Wolf. What did you mean? Where did you hear that name?
I wasn't the one talking.
I don't understand.
Well, that's quite all right. The point is, it would be a very good idea to answer those questions, and we must work together to do so. Of course I'll help you, Pumpkin. I'd like to know myself, wouldn't I? It isn't every day one's taken over by a disembodied spirit, and I don't much care for it, thank you.
You're not talking about a seance, are you?
Oh, heavens no.
Thank God.
Emil's right. I'm much better at tarot cards. I can read for you or for someone else if you prefer.
Are you sure you don't know anything about the Black Wolf?
I never did, dear. I told you. Really, you mustn't confuse the vessel with the voice. All I remember was seeing a very bright flash like lightning. Next thing I knew, Emil had me outside. Whatever it was very powerful. Very powerful.
Well, I guess it wouldn't hurt to do my tarot reading.
Don't you worry now. I know what I'm doing. Push your vital energies into the cards. This is your soul card, that which applies to all of your lifetimes. It's the Empress. Oh, that's a good one.
What's it mean?
It means that your soul's journey is one of leadership. There's great strength here and intelligence. This card represents what you're like in this lifetime. It's the Chariot. Self-discipline, control. You need to feel you have a plan, that you're testing your abilities. The Chariot's very masculine. In combination with the Empress, it tells me that you're currently exploring your male side. You will seek out great achievement, but it does have its price.
Doesn't sound anything like me.
Yes, dear. The third card represents the other. You've pulled the Magician. Who is he, dear?
Excuse me?
Your other, the Magician. Oh, this is a very powerful card. Major Arcana.
My other?
Everyone has an other. Let's see. I bet it's the Schottenjäger. What's his name?
The Schattenjäger? Gabriel Knight.
A name of power. He is powerful, this one. The magician is dexterous and cunning, mischievous and manipulative.
That's Gabriel, all right.
And very strong with magical and occult powers. Now this is interesting because your card, the Chariot, is all logic and reasoning, while his, the Magician, is spiritual and intuitive. You two are quite a pair. The fourth card shows what you're trying to achieve at this moment, your immediate destiny. It's the Strength or Lust card.
Lust?
Not that kind of lust, dear. It's a trial card, finding the strength to continue some difficult journey. It also represents the integration of conflicting energies. That must be your Chariot and his Magician energies. Strength also means bonding those energies, loving without judgment, learning to love the beast.
Uh-huh.
What is this trial, dear? Do you know?
Well, Gabriel and I are involved with a case right now.
It will be a hard time. You must let your love give you power. Use the positive energy of your union or you may not succeed.
I think you have the wrong idea. Gabriel and I just work together.
Yes, dear. But if I might just suggest, when you're facing negative forces, the positive energy of love is a very vital weapon. You make yourself vulnerable when you resist your own tools.
Well, that's been helpful.
I hope so, dear.
Maybe we should do a reading for Gabriel.
Oh, let's! It's a little like spying on someone unawares, but what the heck? Reach out to the cards and to think about his essence. His soul card is the Magician. Yes, dear, it reflects your other exactly.
Well, maybe, but I'd rather hold out for David Copperfield.
And his lifetime card, oh goodness, the Lovers.
You mean the sole purpose of his life is in his pants? Doesn't surprise me.
It's not what you think, dear. It's a duality card. As a lifetime card, it refers to Gabriel's own duality. Good versus evil, physical pleasure versus spiritual growth, that kind of thing. His challenge is to integrate the conflicting parts of himself. Until he does, he'll never find peace. And you will find peace when you acknowledge all of him. Find a way to love the worst as you already love the best.
You're really reaching.
Mother.
His other is the High Priestess.
Let me guess. That's me, right?
No, dear, it's not. The High Priestess represents psychic mysteries, deep wisdom. This is a very different energy from your earthy one. This must be our connection. To the voice, dear! Someone is trying to communicate with Gabriel. This force is represented by the High Priestess.
That's not much help. What about the Black Wolf?
But it is a help, dear. The High Priestess is a spiritual guide card if ever there was one. The message must have been a warning.
If this force is connected to Gabriel, and if he's so very psychic, then why doesn't it just go to him? Why say it to me?
Maybe Gabriel's blocked. Maybe he's purposefully blocking. There is that duality business. Let's go on and see if it becomes clear. The fourth card, remember, represents the current situation. It's death.
Oh. Nothing to worry about then.
Now you just leave interpretation up to me, Sugar Pie. It's a transformation card, dying to one thing and being born to another. It is painful, but it isn't necessarily bad. Two of Wands. Oh, my.
What?
A 2 is not good here. Wands is Mars in Aries. That's a war card. In conjunction with the death card, there are 2 possible transformations.
2 transformations?
Yes, dear. Gabriel is waging a spiritual battle. The transformation might be good or evil. That must be the purpose of the High Priestess. She's trying to guide him.
So you think he really might be in danger?
Oh, yes, dear. Gabriel's very essence is at stake. If he takes the wrong path with his powers, Imola and I will stay in town. You must let me know if anything else happens that we can read for clues. Let the Force use you.
I'd better go.
Anytime you need us, stop by.
And be careful now.
Thanks.
I wonder what kind of flowers these are. I don't want to disturb her. Grace Nakamura. Gerda's here. I wonder what she's up to.
Gerda was in love with Wolfgang.
Boy, do I feel stupid or what. An emergency exit? I guess that makes sense if you're fighting the legions of darkness. The castle looks huge from here. They've got more rooms left to restore than I thought. They're beautiful, but they won't last long in my coat.
That's better, don't you think? I'm so sorry. I was an idiot.
Gabriel and I, we never...
I know. It's my fault. It's Gabriel's fault. He never tells me anything. I don't know why he didn't want me on this case.
Maybe he just...
Don't even try to make excuses for him. Still, he's up to his neck in it, I think. Will you help me out with something?
Of course.
I have to do some research on Ludwig. I want to go see some of his castles.
Take Gabriel's car. There's a map of southern Bavaria in the car. Ludwig's castles are all marked.
Thanks.
Good luck.
I think she wants to be left alone.
Guten Tag.
Guten Tag.
Ich hätte gern eine Eintrittskarte fürs Museum.
Ja, 8 Mark für eine Ganztagskarte. So,
Danke.
bitte.
Guten Tag.
Guten Tag.
Ist das die Ludwig Museum?
Ja, ja. Ludwig der Zweite von Bayern.
Ludwig is Prince Charming. He played the part well. She's beautiful. Elizabeth of Austria. One of Ludwig's few close friends was Empress Elizabeth of Austria. She was a distant cousin of the boy Prince, and he saw her often growing up. Graceful and beautiful, Elizabeth seemed to represent the feminine ideal to the younger Ludwig. Their friendship continued after her marriage, mainly by correspondence. She remained a source of stability for Ludwig throughout his life. In keeping with Ludwig's love of romance and drama, he called her the Dove, and he to her was the Eagle. They certainly make an incredible-looking couple. July 3rd, 1863. Elizabeth, you can have no idea, dear cousin, how happy you made me. The hours recently passed with you in the railway carriage I consider among the happiest in my life. Never will their memory fade. You gave me permission to visit you at Ischl. If the time comes for this ardent hope to be fulfilled, I shall be of all men upon earth the most blessed. The feelings of sincere love and reverence and faithful attachment to you, which I cherished in my heart even as a boy, makes me imagine heaven upon earth, and will be extinguished by death alone. I beg you with all my heart to forgive the contents of this letter, but I could not help myself. Ludwig. Elizabeth frequently gave Ludwig advice on royal conduct, hoping to protect him from unfavorable public opinion. March 1st, 1865. My dearest Eagle, you have not written me in a few months. I have missed you. I often try to imagine what you are doing. I hear tales that you have been on retreat and have not been seen in Munich for some time. I suspect it is this new friend you wrote up so mysteriously that takes you away from home. I hope you are enjoying yourself, my beloved, but I beg you to caution. The people need to see you at the throne. I also hesitate to suggest that what your officials do in your absence may not always be in your own best interest. You have always been a true king, but you must let the people see you to ensure that they don't forget that. E. Your Dove. Ludwig's friends were concerned for his mental state long before his arrest. June 14th, 1878. My beloved Eagle, in your last letter you spoke so movingly of your torment that I was moved to tears. What is this torment? Why won't you confess to me what is truly troubling you? You must know that I would never despise you, no matter how horrible you believe your sins to be. Please do not write such barbs to my heart by even suggesting such things. If you do not wish to confess to me, at least tell me how I can aid you. I am always your true one, your Dove. In this letter, dated November 1886, Elizabeth of Austria thanks Bishop Frank for his assistance in helping her fulfill Ludwig's last wishes. She writes that she knows it was an unusual request, but she believes Ludwig had reasons of his own for wishing it to be done. She hopes that his spirit finds peace at last. No further reference to this letter has ever been found. One can only speculate what the last wishes of a cornered and embattled Ludwig might have been.
What were his last wishes? This place is giving me more questions than answers.
He looks so regal. Why would he give up all of this pageantry and become a recluse? Ludwig, Grand Master of the Knights of St. George. There's gotta be a connection between all this St. George stuff and Gabriel. Ludwig is Grand Master of the Knights of St. George. The Knights of St. George was an aristocratic society dedicated to the acts of chivalry. Ludwig loved the medieval pageantry of the order in his early years, before his increasing reclusiveness drove him to abandon public appearances. Ludwig and Wagner. Ludwig loved the opera of his contemporary Richard Wagner. He helped support Wagner's music through much of his life. Ludwig considered Wagner a close friend, often calling him the great friend. Wagner encouraged this infatuation, some believe, for personal gain. Typical artist. Ludwig's Grand Master wardrobe from the Knights of St. George. Looks like it weighs a ton. Richard Wagner. Ludwig's diary. Ludwig kept a diary from 1869 when he was 24 years old until his death. The diary provides a fascinating look into the mind of this tormented man. The original diary is kept in the Royal Archives. A few entries are shown on the opposite wall.
I've got to see that diary.
Even after Wagner's death, Ludwig still showed signs of obsession with the composer. This letter, written in 1882 by Ludwig to the conductor of the Munich Opera, instructs the conductor to make preparations for a new Wagner opera. The conductor went to see the king as instructed. When he arrived, Ludwig was ill and refused to see him. Nothing further was ever heard of this mysterious new opera. Was it a figment of an ill man's desperate wishes? Ludwig is offered a crown of laurels by the genius of immortal fame. 26 July, 1874. By the power of the lily, we shall have the strength to resist all temptations throughout the whole year. 26 July, 1875. Solemn oath before the picture of the great king. Refrain for 3 months from all excitement. This oath has its binding power as well as its potency by de par le Roy, LNR, DPLR. What excitement! I need to see more of that diary. June 7th, 1886. A group of men arrive at Neuschwanstein Castle demanding to take the king in custody. With them is Dr. Guden, the doctor who had been in charge of Otto, the king's mentally ill brother. The men have an order for the king's arrest on the grounds of insanity. They are refused admittance by a brave group of farmers and local soldiers who have come to Ludwig's aid. They are forced to retreat to nearby Hohenschwangau. This is the first Ludwig hears of the conspiracy. Ludwig composes a pamphlet explaining the subversive acts of the conspirators and eloquently pleading with his people for aid. The pamphlet is smuggled out of Neuschwanstein and printed, but the pamphlets are seized before they can be distributed. June 7. Ludwig composed. June 12, 1886. Ludwig knows the conspirators will return. He despairs. He asks his servant for the keys to the tower. The servant, fearing the king intends suicide, says the key is lost. Unbeknownst to Ludwig, the conspirators arrive at the castle. This time, there is no one to stop them. Ludwig is lured from his bedroom to the entry hall of Neuschwanstein on pretense. There, he is taken into custody. Ludwig is taken by carriage from Neuschwanstein to Berg, where his brother Otto had long been imprisoned. This is a great blow to the king's state of mind. While on the way, the group stops at Seeshaupt to change horses. Ludwig asks to see the postmistress, Frau Vogel. She brings him a glass of water and he says something to her. She never reveals these last words to anyone. June 13, 1886. At Berg, Ludwig seems cooperative and coherent. Dr. Guden writes to the government that he has Ludwig well under control. The two men go out for a walk, and Dr. Guden is so confident he dismisses the guards. When Ludwig and the doctor do not return after several hours, a search is undertaken. The bodies of the two men are found in the lake, drowned. Circumstances unknown. June 18, 1886. Ludwig's funeral procession marches through the streets of Munich, followed by enormous crowds of mourners. The service is held at a packed St. Michael's church. Lightning strikes the church during the service, but no one is harmed. Ludwig's body is entombed in the Wittelsbach crypt at St. Michael's. His heart is placed in an urn in the pilgrimage chapel at Altötting in the Wittelsbach tradition. The urn is shown to the right. His heart is in an urn? How bizarre. Oh my God, that's the slave from my dream. Maybe Mrs. Smith will know what my dream meant. I have to ask someone. This thing is getting too weird. Ludwig embarking on his sleigh. The midnight sleigh rides. Ludwig went on long sleigh rides in the middle of the night, particularly in his later years. It is said that he suffered from insomnia, headaches, and toothaches, and the rides soothed his restlessness. The sight of the king's grand sleigh speeding through the countryside of the Alps often startled the peasants and became a superstitious omen of ill fortune. I can see why. But what was he doing out there at night? December 14th, 1881, Linderhof. Order another work by Jennings on the occult. Write urgently to Klug saying that I insist that the stoppages by the bank cease. I want it, and therefore it must be done. Write very urgently. He must succeed at once, and then must report to me urgently. If I give orders to clear my room, doing so must not be postponed as it happened. Pencils must be pointed without special orders. The day after tomorrow, 1,000 marks. How is Louis now? I want to know whether he looks unhappy. How often have I said that the coffee must not come up boiling hot, so that it can only be drunk after standing an hour? If any more correspondence come from Louis, they are to be burnt immediately, but I am to be informed of their arrival. These are actual notes from Ludwig to his servants. They go far in showing the king's state of mind. They were smuggled out and used as evidence in compiling the order for Ludwig's arrest. December 18th, 1881, Linderhof. Every day get up earlier for certain. See to that very particularly. Write it down. Remember that when the great friend arrives at Neuschwanstein, we retire to the hall. We are not to be disturbed. I will not tolerate interference or insubordination. I have no idea what that says. Looks old, though. Ludwig's death mask. Wow.
Guten Tag.
Guten Tag.
Im Museum ist ein Brief von Ludwig über eine neue Wagner-Oper.
Ja, ich kenne diesen Brief.
Wo kann ich mehr von dieser Wagner-Oper sehen?
Ja, ich weiß nichts über Wagner. Das hier ist kein Wagner-Museum.
Ja, ich weiß.
In Bayreuth befindet sich ein Wagner-Museum. Versuchen Sie es halt doch, ne?
Bayreuth. Danke. Ludwigs Tagebuch im Museum?
Ja.
Wo kann ich Ludwigs Tagebuch hier anschauen?
Die Tagebücher sind ganz persönlich. Die sind in den königlichen Archiven. Niemand darf die lesen. Aber nein, niemand darf die lesen.
Danke. Herr Huber?
Yes?
I was wondering if you've changed your mind about telling me where Gabriel is. It's really important.
No. Sorry.
Are the Smiths in their room?
Ja, I believe so.
Could you ask them to come down, please?
Ja, natürlich.
Now you just tell Merle what's going on.
I had a dream last night. I didn't remember it at first, but I saw something today at one of the museums.
What was the dream?
I was being chased in the woods by wolves. And I saw a sleigh. Ludwig was inside. He pulled me up, and I thought I was safe. But then he turned into a wolf.
So what do you think, Mother?
A dream of rescue is a spiritual guide dream. The High Priestess in Gabriel's cards must be linked to Ludwig somehow.
What do the wolves represent?
I'm a psychic, dear, not Freud. But the warning I got was about the black wolf, wasn't it? And the wolves in the dream. It must be the same danger.
It's so frustrating. The more I find out, the more questions I have.
Why don't you try a little communicating of your own? Ludwig's the link. Appeal to him. The answers may not come right away, but at least you'll give the guide something specific to say the next time she contacts you.
Isn't there any way that you could, do a psychic reading on Ludwig or something?
To tell you the truth, I've been trying all day to make contact, but I only feel great despair. Ludwig's soul is not at peace.
I'd better go.
Anytime you need us, stop by.
And be careful now.
Thanks.
Hi, did you have a good time?
Uh-huh. Anything new?
Yes, you had a phone call.
Really?
A man named Professor Barkley. He said you had his number.
I do. Thanks.
Hello?
Hi, Professor Barkley. It's Grace.
Oh, good. I have a name for you. It's Herr Josef Dahlmeier, and he specializes in Bavarian history, and I think he's somewhere near you are.
Herr Josef Dahlmeier. Great, got a number?
Yeah, I do. It's 4982-555-2234.
Thanks a lot. Sorry about the bother.
That's no bother. When are you coming back to school, Gracie?
When I figure it out, I'll let you know.
Well, be good.
Professor Barkley's Ludwig contact.
Hallo?
Hallo, sind Sie Herr Josef Dahlmeier?
Yeah, you must be Grace Nakamura, the American history student.
Yes.
I hear you're interested in Ludwig II.
Very.
Good. There's something I want to show you. Drive to Berg on Starnberger See. Meet me at the Memorial Chapel.
All right. Thank you.
Oh, wait. Was there anything you wanted me to look into before we meet?
Well, I was hoping you knew something about someone called the Black Wolf. He was a contemporary of Ludwig's. He lived in Prussia, I think, and he was well connected.
Never heard of him, but I'll check. See you there.
Thanks. Bye. Gerda?
Yes?
Have you heard from Gabriel at all?
No, Grace, I'm sorry.
Never mind.
Grüß Gott.
Guten Tag. Ist das die Wagner Museum?
Yeah, you're an American, aren't you? I'm afraid the house is closed this time of year. It will be open next month.
Crap.
You are interested in Wagner?
Very interested. Very recently very interested.
Yeah. Most of the house is closed for cleaning, but a few rooms are open. I shouldn't let you probably, but if it is only you, you are alone, aren't you?
Endlessly.
Come in and look around.
That's very generous. What do I owe you?
Georg Immerding. There's only a few displays. Besides, I wouldn't be much of a shining knight if I charged you.
Thanks, Georg. My name is Grace.
Hello. Have a good time.
Franz Liszt, composer and Cosima Wagner's father. Richard Wagner. Wagner's piano. On this piano, the maestro composed his later operas, including The Ring. The death of Wagner. On Ash Wednesday, 1883, Wagner suffered a heart attack in a Venetian gondola on the way to Saint Michel. His wife and the gondolier carried him into a church where he regained consciousness. Wagner died 4 days later on this sofa. Wagner's desk, exactly as it was on the day he died. It looks like an architectural drawing of a theater, the Wittelsbacher Theater, München. Every square inch is measured. It looks like an every square. It's a letter from a Monsieur Beaujolais, dated September 1881. Looks like he's discussing acoustics and sound waves and crystals. Wasn't Wagner's Bayreuth Theater already built? Why would Wagner be worrying about acoustics? Wagner's death mask. A portrait given as a gift from Ludwig to Wagner. Ludwig's death mask. June 10th, 1881, Munich residence. Great friend. I am writing to you in the middle of the night. My blood is pounding too wildly for sleep. Tonight's performance, how can I describe it? I am unsure whether to be terrified or thrilled. Perhaps I even feel hopeful. If it is hope, you have given it to me, my friend, for the first time in years. We must speak. Something happened during the music tonight, but I must have your absolute confidence. As you love me, come at once. Your devoted king, Ludwig. July 1882. Great and beloved king, Monsieur Beaujolais and I have finished the diagram. We checked the figures many times and Monsieur is confident that it will work. 8 identical fixtures are to be made from the diagram and placed in the theater exactly as specified. I'm sending the diagram with your courier. Be full of hope and have courage. All will be well. Your own, Wagner. Ludwig as the classical Greek hero. This must be a model of Wagner's own theater, here in Bayreuth. Opera costumes. These look like production designs. These look like production designs. Wagner souvenirs. Don't think I need any of those. Wagner souvenir.
What's that book in the case?
Cosima Wagner's journal. It's locked up for preservation.
Huh. What are you doing here if the museum is closed?
They always like to have a caretaker here. It's a good job for me. I can soak in the atmosphere of the maestro while I compose.
What are you composing?
This? Oh, a new arrangement. One of Wagner's pieces.
For the Bayreuth Opera?
No. I am only a student at the university. I study music, composition, conducting.
Is there much of a call for conductors in Europe?
Ask my brother. He is the conductor for the Munich Opera.
Well, that's convenient. Does that mean you get free opera tickets?
Yes. I get a week's pass to the Opernfestspiele, the opera festival in Munich. It starts in a few months.
Hope I'm still around to see it.
Come with me if you like. If you're still around, I can go backstage and all sorts of things.
I'd love that. If I'm still in Germany, I'll call you, all right?
Yeah, good.
Tell me about Wagner.
He was a character. He spent most of his life trying to convince rich patrons to subsidize his work. Unfortunately, he had expensive tastes. You see, he believed that someone of his genius deserved to live well. Can't argue with that.
But Ludwig II supported him, didn't he?
Yeah, sure, but Ludwig came along very late in Wagner's life. By then, he had already been run out of Venice and most major cities because of debt. Ludwig saved him. And the music. Best thing Ludwig ever did.
Do you know anything about that letter from Wagner to Ludwig in the display case? The one about the diagram?
Ah, no. Some sort of equipment for Ludwig's theater. But I don't know why Wagner would have cared about this. If he was worried about any theater, you would think it would have been his own theater, here, in Bayreuth.
Have you ever heard about the letter that Ludwig wrote to the Munich conductor in 1882, telling him to prepare for a new Wagner opera?
You're full of surprises, for an American.
What do you know about it?
No one knows anything about it. It's like a treasure map, you know? It's probably a complete fairy tale, but it does make you wonder.
You have no idea what it could have referred to? Maybe something that Wagner was working on with Ludwig?
If there was, there's no trace of it. Except perhaps in the dreams of unemployed music students.
I don't have anything to ask Georg about at the moment. It's a memorial chapel. It's a memorial.
This is where he died. You must be Grace. Herr Dahlmeier.
Hello.
Josef, I didn't mean to startle you. I wanted you to see it. I feel him here the most, you know, more than at the castles. So, what did you want to know?
Professor Barclay says your hobby is Ludwig.
Yes. He was the last real king that Bavaria had. As a Bavarian and a history buff, well, that's enough to hook me right there.
But there's more, right?
He was a romantic, you know. A dreamer. And he was misunderstood, maligned.
Sounds like you can relate.
Me? Hell, I have it easy. At least I live in the 1990s. And not every eye in the country is on me. But yes, I can relate.
You know about Ludwig's diary, right?
Of course.
How can I get my hands on it?
I'm sorry. I have been trying myself for 5 years. They keep it locked up tight in the Royal Archives and they don't let it out. They must think it contains things that will hurt his image.
They won't let anyone see it, not ever?
Only one person outside of the government ever got to see it, a biographer, Sir Richmond Chapel. He had friends among the German royals and they let him look at it.
Did you ever try to contact Chapel, pick his brain?
No, and I don't believe I never thought of that. If you do and you find out anything, you must share.
It's a promise. Tell me about Ludwig.
I don't know where to start. There's so much. Politically, the most significant thing about Ludwig II was that he signed over independent Bavarian statehood to Prussia in 1870. Bavaria became a part of United Germany, and Ludwig became a figurehead prince under the Prussian Kaiser.
Why do you think he did that?
Bavaria had been involved in the 100 Years' War. People were tired of fighting. Prussia's push to unite the German states made some amount of sense. Still, Ludwig must have had other options. At the very least, he should have negotiated better terms.
So what was the real reason?
He was manipulated by Bismarck. At least that's what I think, anyway.
What about Ludwig personally?
You'll find two perspectives on Ludwig. The view the tourists get is the romantic ideal, Ludwig the tormented loner. Then there is the historian's point of view. Ludwig was plagued with guilt over his sexual orientation and was driven mad with self-loathing.
But I take it you're not buying either point of view.
Well, it's all too convenient, isn't it? That he was a devout Catholic, there is no question, and I'm sure there were pressures on him to be normal. But he was no prude. He loved Byron. Yes. Philosophy, the French court. If anything, Ludwig was too much an egomaniac. He didn't give a damn what anyone thought. And besides, he didn't try to hide any of his relationships. If he suffered from anything in his romantic life, it was disillusionment. No one loved him back as purely as he himself loved.
Well, if it wasn't sexual guilt that tormented him, what was it?
I don't know. His diary was filled with self-guilt, but I'm sure it's not about that. If I knew, I'd write my own book, set the record straight, so to speak.
Have you read anything about Ludwig's midnight sleigh rides?
Oh, would that have been something? To be out at night and suddenly see him sweep by with his entourage? They say the night agitated Ludwig, and that being outdoors and the rushing feeling of the sleigh calmed him down. Sometimes even the sleigh wasn't enough. He would stop in some remote woods, order his servants to stay put, and go wandering off by himself for hours. It drove the servants crazy.
Tell me about Bismarck.
Oh, Bismarck. He was the Prussian Kaiser's chancellor. Not a nice man. Bismarck had a reputation for learning people's weaknesses and manipulating them. It's a matter of record that he had spies on Ludwig's staff. He may even have had a henchman even closer to the king. and he was involved in the conspiracy to declare Ludwig insane.
Did you find out anything about the Black Wolf?
I did. I'd read about him before, but I hadn't realized that was who you were talking about. His name was Godin, Paul Godin. I found a reference to his being called the Black Wolf after you telephoned.
I've never heard of him. Who was he?
Godin lived on the fringes of the Prussian court. He was handsome, charming, dangerous, or so they say. He was variously rumored to have been a foreign prince, a Prussian spy, even an assassin. Since you were interested in him, I found out some things that are probably true. It said he came from abroad in the mid-1800s, but claimed high German blood.
Do you know where he came from?
No. And he was ruthlessly ambitious. He probably found out who held the power, Bismarck, and offered his services. Bismarck was a good judge of talent, of that sort anyway.
What else do you know about Godin?
He must have done something remarkable. Bismarck was not a generous man. He liked to string people along with promises, but rarely came through. He did for Godin, though. He gave him a royal title and lands in 1863. And that was the last reference I found to him.
Well, how could he just disappear?
It's not that unusual. Back then, when you were given a title, you usually changed your name and moved to a place where no one knew your past, so you could act with impunity. Or be a pompous ass and get away with it.
Is there any way to find out what Godin was called after he got his title?
Is it that critical?
It might be.
Well, you could send away for a copy of the entitlement deed, assuming it has been destroyed during one of the wars. Godin's new name would be on it. But you would need a research permit from the government to access those records, and they can be very hard to get. A lot of red tape.
Great. What do you know about Ludwig's hunting accident?
A couple of years ago, I was introduced to this great old man, a real old-world farmer. Well, his grandfather was Richard Horning, Ludwig's equestrian. Oh, he told some great Ludwig stories. Sometimes I get lucky. Anyway, he said that after the hunting accident, Ludwig got terribly ill, that he had a fever and was acting crazy. They were afraid that the wolf had been carrying a disease or that the bite had gone septic.
A wolf bit him?
Yeah, it's not so unusual. There were a lot of wolves in the Alps back then. The servants were really worried, but Ludwig recovered, physically anyway. Horning's grandfather said it was the fever that broke Ludwig's mind, that he was worse than ever after that.
What do you mean Ludwig got worse after the accident?
Ludwig always had been a very private person. But after the accident, he got darker, more crazy. Towards the end, he was even forcing his servants to enter his chambers bent over so they couldn't see his face. Horning's grandfather said his temper was fearsome. He would fly into a rage at the least mistake.
Must have been terrified of him.
Yes, well. Horning's grandfather felt sorry for Ludwig, and Ludwig hated his own violence. He was always giving gifts to his servants to apologize.
You mentioned that there were other reasons why Ludwig's servants feared him.
Ah, that's another of Horning's mysteries. There's a story about Neuschwanstein. Apparently there was a period of time of 2 or 3 months when Wagner would come and visit him
Wagner?
there. Yeah. The two would lock themselves in the singers' hall. Horning's grandfather said the sounds that came from there were awful. Well, the servants had superstitious minds anyway. Some of them quit over it, just walked away.
What kind of sounds?
Horning's grandfather called them heartbreaking and ungodly. Maybe it was Wagner trying to sing.
Well, I guess that's all for now. Thanks for your help.
It's my pleasure. And if you ever want to talk again, just give me a call. I'll meet you down there.
I will. Thanks.
Servus.
Well, bye. I wonder what it felt like under there. I wonder what it felt like under there.
Our tour begins in the entry hall. Ludwig II lived from 1845 to 1886. He assumed the Bavarian throne at the age of 18 when his father died. Ludwig's passion was building castles. He built 3 during his lifetime: Linderhof, Herrenchiemsee, and Neuschwanstein. Plans for a 4th castle, Falkenstein, were underway when he died. In addition to his obsession with building, Ludwig also had a passion for classical heroic German mythology, a taste he shared with the German opera composer Richard Wagner. Neuschwanstein is decorated throughout with themes from these stories, most of which directly relate to Wagner's operas.
I wonder where that door leads.
The closed door leads to the tower, which is not part of the tour. The king was making his way to this very door when he was arrested in 1886.
These scenes seem to tell a story, but I have no idea what story.
The paintings in this room are from the Siegfried Saga.
These scenes seem to tell a story, but I have no idea what story.
The paintings in this room are from the Siegfried Saga. You are now standing in the king's bedroom. The theme of the bedroom is Tristan and Isolde, the tragic love story retold in Wagner's opera. The opera was given its first performance in Munich in 1865, and the 20-year-old Ludwig attended. This is probably the most elaborate and expensive bedroom ever created. It took 14 wood carvers 4.5 years to create this room. It was this kind of extravagance that bankrupted the king. In the years before his death, he found it increasingly difficult to find money from any source. The richly carved bed, with its canopy, resembles a Gothic building and its turrets. The bed's draperies were handmade by dozens of Bavarian seamstresses. The washstand actually worked by bringing in water from a stream above the castle. The richly carved bed, with its...
Maybe Ludwig thought all this luxury would help him sleep. Ludwig sure had a thing for swans.
Scenes from the opera Tristan and Isolde. Scenes from the opera Tristan and Isolde. In the corner is a brown tiled stove with clay figures of Tristan and Isolde. This is Ludwig's private chapel. The king was a devout Catholic, as were all of the Wittelsbacher rulers. They supported the Roman Church even when other European countries were dominated by Protestantism. The stained glass window depicts St. Louis receiving the last sacraments.
The Black Madonna of Altading. I wonder what her story is all about. It's a beautiful crucifix, ivory and gold. A king saint? I wonder if Ludwig pictured himself that way, or maybe he just wanted to be that way. A king saint?
The paintings above the altar depict St. Louis surrounded by the seraphim. An interesting side note. For a period of about a year, the Louis images in all three castles were ordered to be covered up with black cloth on the unfathomable whim of the king. This is the king's living room. The walls are decorated with scenes from the Lohengrin saga. The king first saw Wagner's opera Lohengrin when he was 16, and it so affected him that he considered it a form of enlightenment. The tragedy of Lohengrin was his essential loneliness. This too was Ludwig's own fate. Ludwig withdrew more and more into his fantasy world of epic heroes and absolute monarchy. An ideal he was determined to create in his castles if he could not have it in his real life. He only wanted to be alone with his dreams, so much so that even his servants were kept at a distance and were not allowed to look at him.
What were you afraid they'd see? I'm surprised people don't sit in these chairs when the guard's not looking. These linens look seriously expensive and seriously old.
The Miracle of the Grail. The swan motif is featured throughout the castle, but it is particularly prominent in this room. Both the swan and the lily were symbols Ludwig associated with himself. They represented his ideals of majesty and purity. The painting behind the swan shows Lohengrin's arrival.
More swans.
This is a reproduction of the grotto from the Tannhäuser saga. In such places, Ludwig would pretend he was one of his beloved mythic heroes. As the grotto personifies, the castles were solitary playgrounds built for Ludwig alone. He believed the masses were too coarse to appreciate fine art, and he seldom entertained guests. In fact, Ludwig had a standing order that upon his death, the castles were to be destroyed. Fortunately, the estate was in such debt that the castles were opened for paying tours only weeks after Ludwig's death. They haven't closed since. It is one of the great ironies of Ludwig's story that the castles that he was thought insane for building are now considered Bavaria's finest treasures. They have paid for their construction many times over.
I can almost picture Ludwig in here. I wonder what he really dreamt about in this room.
This is the king's study. Ludwig spent much time at his desk, writing letters, drawing up plans for his projects, and studying his favorite authors. He loved poetry, history, and the classics. In later years, he also studied the occult. What affairs of state he did reluctantly attend to were generally attended to alone at his desk in writing. His reluctance to meet with his heads of state and perform the duties of the king were one of the reasons for the charges brought against him in 1886. But Ludwig dreamt of true kingship and a true monarchy, and the small powers left to him after Bavaria's succeeded power to Prussia only incited his disdain and frustration. The study paintings depict scenes from the Tannhäuser Saga and the Wartburg Castle. The study paintings depict scenes from the Tannhäuser Saga and the Wartburg Castle. The study paintings depict scenes from the
I wonder why he was studying the occult before he died. I wonder why he was... I doubt there's anything left in there now. Besides, the guard would kill me if I touched it.
This is the final room of our tour, the Singers' Hall. It was modeled after the Singers' Hall of the Wartburg Castle, where minstrel competitions were held in the 13th century. The hall was built for small private concerts, but Ludwig himself never gave one here. It is said that during the last few years of Wagner's life, he came to Neuschwanstein frequently and performed for the king alone in this room. The hall is probably best known for its enigmatic wolf paintings. The original paintings were from the Parsifal Saga, but in 1882, Ludwig had them replaced, supplying the description and titles of the new paintings himself. While all the other rooms in the castle show scenes from Wagner's operas, the scenes in this room are not from any opera that anyone can identify. It is yet another of the many mysteries associated with the life of the fairy tale king. Hildegunde's imprisonment. The wedding feast of Hildegunde and the Baron. The death of Engelhart. Engelhart and the blacksmith. Engelhart courts Hildegunde. The hunters track down Engelhart and Hildegunde.
There must be a story behind these wolf paintings, but what story? Nice view of the Alps.
Ludwig's childhood castle, Hohenschwangau, is visible from the lookout in the Singers' Hall.
Hi, Gerda. I'm back. Good.
Gerda?
Yes?
Gerda, do you have any idea where I could get a government research permit? I don't have time for a lot of red tape.
You should ask Herr Übergrau. He can maybe get such things very fast.
You think? I was gonna write Gabriel today anyway. There's nothing else on werewolves in the occult section. I should get a letter off to Gabriel. I need to include a note to Übergrau about the research permit. My letter to the great detective. A ticket to the Ludwig Museum.
Hallo, Bertel München.
Hi, I have a book of yours on Ludwig II. The author's name is Sir Richmond Chapel.
Yes, how can I help you?
Well, I'm doing some research on Ludwig, and I was hoping you could get me in contact with the author.
I'm afraid Sir Richmond Chapel is deceased.
Oh.
However, his son is living.
Oh. Well, is there any way you can put me in touch with him?
And who are you doing this research for?
Well, I'm working with Professor Barkley from Yale University.
All right. Thomas Chapel's number in England is 41 20 555 771.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Goodbye.
Bye.
Sir Richmond Chapel's son.
Chapel residence?
Hi, my name is Grace Nakamura. I'm calling from Rittersburg, Germany. Is Thomas Chapel there, please?
Speaking. What may I do for you, Miss Nakamura?
This is going to sound crazy, but I have a copy of your father's biography on Ludwig II. I understand he had access to Ludwig's diary.
Yes.
Well, oh God, I'm not even sure. He didn't make a copy of it or anything, did he? Or perhaps he took good notes?
He wrote down a complete translation in English. He said he couldn't make headway with the German version. Ludwig's handwriting was rather brogue, you know.
He wrote down an English translation. Do you still have it?
Well, unfortunately, my father was allowed to see the diary only on the grounds that he wouldn't publish the entire work. I can't let you see it. Have you tried contacting the National Archive?
No, I don't have the kinds of connections your father did, or the time.
That's unfortunate, but I really cannot let it out of my hands.
I understand. It was just a shot in the dark.
Very well. The best of luck to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chapel.
Gibt's das denn, die Lilienblühen schon?
Sehr schön.
Ja, aber es ist doch noch so kalt. Für Sie ein Geschenk von der Madonna.
Oh no.
Nehmen Sie sie ruhig. Heute Nacht wird es kalt und sie wird sowieso erfrieren.
Thank you.
It was nice of Father Getz to give me one of the lilies.
Grüß Gott, Frau Nakamura.
Grüß Gott. Haben Sie etwas für mich?
Nein, leider nicht. Brauchen Sie noch etwas?
Kann ich diesen Brief versenden?
Ja, 3 Mark bitte.
Dankeschön.
Bitte sehr. Brauchen Sie noch etwas?
Danke.
Bitte.
Guess they're closed.
I wonder what it felt like under there. Father Getz said the lily was a gift from the Madonna. That's an odd way of looking at it. I'm trying to figure out what you want me to do, but I need more information to work with. If you can send any my way, I'd appreciate it.
Hi, Gerda. I'm back.
Good.
I don't have anything to ask Gerda right now.
Have you ever heard about the wolf panels in the Singers' Hall at Neuschwanstein?
Did my brother send you here?
No.
Probably not. It's only the letter to the conductor, the wolf panel. Oh, my brother thinks I am crazy because of all my theories.
What theories?
This is Quatsch. If there was a lost opera, a lost Wagner opera, and if one could find it, to a conductor, this would be like finding King Tut's tomb. But people have looked for it before. If it ever existed, it is gone forever. My brother says I waste my time even thinking about it.
I'm curious. Is there any other information that points to the lost opera besides Ludwig's letter and the wolf panels?
It's nothing. I'm not even supposed to have seen it. You see, my brother says that Wagner was too egotistical to have produced a lost opera. If he was working on something new, every person in Bayreuth would have heard about it. On the other hand, it was in Ludwig's character to have wanted a private opera.
But it wouldn't have been private. Ludwig's letter shows he intended it to be played in Munich.
Yes, but that it would get so far without Wagner telling others? Why keep it a secret?
Maybe there was a very good reason for secrecy.
For example?
Like... Never mind.
I don't have anything to ask Georg about at the moment.
Hi. You just had a phone call. It was Frau Gelder at the post office. She said a fax came in for you there.
Really? I wonder what it was.
Maybe it's from Gabriel.
Don't hold your breath. Hallo, Frau Gelder. Haben Sie etwas für mich?
Ja, ein Fax. Ein sehr langes Fax. Das ist aber nicht vom Schattenjäger.
Ist okay. Dankeschön. Thomas Chapel. Oh.
June 1872. Louis has convinced me to think matters through more thoroughly before I act. A trip it shall be then, to Shahin. It shall not alter my purpose, I feel, nor shall his compelling. The treaty is the ruin of my beloved Bavaria, and must be taken to task. 3rd July 1872. The pain gets so bad, I cannot hold a pen to write, but the horror is far worse than the pain. He says it was an accident, says that we can truly be one now, that it is a great adventure. I believe him 1 minute, and the next I can feel the flames of hell upon my heels. May God have mercy on my soul. 5th January 1874. By the power of Mary, Mother of God, I swear to refrain from the ultimate sin and to remain steadfast in my flesh, sworn by the power of the lily, Eleanor. 30th August 1879. I will not falter, but will remain true. No matter the torment or longing, I will not yield. I will control the process. God grant me strength and will. By the grace and power of the monarchy and its allegiance. De Paul Leroy, Eleanor. September 1880. It is all finished. Elizabeth warned me, and I discovered the truth at last. O most venomous viper at my very bosom! O lowest of the least worthy who ever breathed! My Judas, my devil! If I could tear my heart out and fling it after him in the dirt, I would. 12th December 1880. He continues to come, the devil. I will never look upon his hideous face again. He is afraid I will tell, and I might. To destroy him, I might. When I think of the accident, now that things are clear, I wonder, was it truly an accident, or was it the plot to kill me? If so, why did he not complete it then, instead of putting me in this torment? Could he have hated me so? I wish to God he had simply ended it there. 10th June 1881. Terror. Rapture. During W's music tonight, I felt a pulling. The horror nearly came upon me right there. Then the music turned, and it was gone. What can it mean? I must confide in the great friend. Perhaps he will know what has happened. 2nd August 1882. The experiments go better and better. W has proved as loyal and determined as ever I believed he would be in a matter of my salvation. He says he has the formula now. It remains only to put the finishing touches on the completed opera and to draw up the diagram for the crystals. Can it truly end? I scarce dare to hope. April 1883. The great friend is dead. How unjust that he should be taken from me now. Where is my chance at salvation? Why has God condemned me twice? 10th October 1885. There must be made clear funds for the crystals. Lies. Everyone lies. My own servants. What must I do? Must I sell one of my beloved castles? The crystals must be made. I grow daily less able to control my own will. How long will I be able to resist the ultimate sin? And the music is worthless without a device. Time is running out. The crystals must be made. do have something to discuss with Georg, but he'll never believe me unless I show him.
Have you heard of Ludwig's diary?
Yes, but no one is allowed to see it.
It just so happens that I have a copy of an English translation right here. There's something I wanted to show you. Read this one.
August, 1880. The experiments go better and better. Vey has proved as loyal and determined as ever. It remains only to put the finishing touches on the completed opera and to make up the diagram for the crystal. My God!
Wait, I want to show you something. I am not supposed to have looked at this myself, but I am here alone all day, so...
July 1881. Richard returned from his meeting with the king. Never have I seen him so pale. I was concerned for his heart. He would not speak with me, but immediately shut himself up in his study and started working on a new project. He will not tell me the first thing about it. He will only say that it was time he repaid his king. It confirms Ludwig's diary. He wasn't crazy.
Yes, but Ludwig says that the opera was completed. Imagine that, completed. There's something else.
August 1882. We had a messenger tonight from the king. He brought a letter which Richard burnt. I did manage to see a bit of it. It said something about a great night in Munich and that it would be Richard's supreme triumph and someone else's destruction. Ludwig then wrote that even though he himself would probably die, his immortal soul would be freed thanks to Richard. I worry for poor Ludwig and for us. Where will we be if his madness continues? Surely someone will put an end to it. Wow.
There's one more.
May 1883. I sent Richard's sealed package to the king, as he instructed moments before he closed his eyes forever. I could not even bring myself to care what was in it. What could it matter now? Whatever it is, I hope it brings the king good memories of Richard. He did so much for my beloved.
The package.